is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Cataclysm Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.cataclysm.com, and tonight we're speaking to my good friend Stephen Lee from the Los Angeles-based Van Halen tribute, Viva Van Halen, and today, because Stephen's such a David Lee Roth fan like me, we're going to be talking about Dave's debut solo album, which is 1986's Eat 'Em and Smile, and just so Steve, people know what time frame this was, we're talking about this album was released July 7th, 1986, and I'm sure you're a David Lee Roth fan, as I know, because you're a huge Van Halen fan, but go back to 1986 when you heard like Yankee Rose for the first time. What was that like for you? I mean,
well, of course, after Van Halen, it just was like felt right progression. Of course, I love Van Halen.
Of course,
what they did, but I definitely was a kindred spirit with this guy. I mean, the videos and everything is just fantastic. The fat bodysuit, the whole comedy thing.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. There's a lot of Bugs Bunny stuff going on.
Now let me ask you, because the album that obviously preceded this would be 1984. That's the last thing he did with Van Halen. Now, at that point, I mean, Jump was all over the place. Hot for Teacher was a big hit. Panama, and the thing with 1984 was, while it was Eddie the Great Guitar God, it was a very keyboard oriented album. What were your thoughts on that? Before we really get into Eat 'Em and Smile.
A lot of those guys had a metal background, so the keyboard was kind of like foreign, or like we all knew Kansas, and that was just another era or something like that. Pink Floyd is just something else, but it wasn't heavy metal. And then when you had Eddie playing keyboards, it was like, what happened here? It was even Dancing in the Streets and whatever, even Dance the Night Away.
Yeah.
Those are, those are on the border of pop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was not metal, so that was kind of a little bit of a thing I think a lot of people went through. I definitely had a reaction to it. But when Steve Vai came up, with his answer, it was just over the top, amazing. He said he wasn't here to replace that. He's just doing what he does.
Oh yeah. And here's the thing with that too is you remember when the split happened. I mean, first of all, everybody thought, okay, who the hell is Van Halen going to get to replace David Lee Roth? And the band itself, I think, was very worried about like. Oh boy, this guy's leaving right at the height of our success, and so that's the thing for me. When I heard more to the effect when I seen the video for Yankee Rose, I mean it was cool, it was crazy. There's that little kind of comedy effect, like you said. It was so David Lee Roth, so over the top. But I'll tell you what I remember about the track the most, besides Dave, was I never heard a guitar player play like I never heard the guitar speak to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was part of the vaudeville shtick that he had.
Yeah.
That he had, from a childhood. The Three Stooges, the Bugs Bunny, the Marx Brothers.
Yeah.
All of Al Jolson. I mean, Al Jolson, big time, and all that giant persona. He wanted to bring that to life, and with the characters that he portrayed, at least, and then in the songs themselves, making up a story for us to hear.
Yeah, and last time we talked, Steve, we were talking about the EP that preceded this, which was Crazy from the Heat, and that's basically like 4 great cover tunes, like we were talking about. Some of them are like considered like kind of lounge songs, and I'd heard on this album, Dave kind of wanted to make a bigger statement, obviously, and he wanted to kind of have a little bit of that vibe continue on with this, and that's why. But there's quite a few cover tunes on here people probably aren't even aware of, like obviously Shy Boy, which is track 2. That's very much kind of a metal track. That's from Billy Sheehan's previous band, Talus, but of course a lot more people hearing it here in this version, and then you had an old kind of tune. I don't even know who the original guy was that did it, called Tobacco Road. That was a hit back in the day, but he really Dave that song up, if you know what I mean.
It was just great, fantastic. Old blues song.
Yeah. And then, only David Lee Roth can end an album with a Frank Sinatra tune, "That's Life."
Oh, right on. Yeah, no, that again was right there with Just a Gigolo. I mean, it just go again with the
cover, yeah.
With the vaudeville shtick, during that time, I thought, you remember how Kiss divided up and they each did a solo album?
Yeah.
I figured that this was something along those lines, that they were just going to let him go do his thing, and then they'd come back as Van Halen.
Yeah.
But I kind of heard something like that. I don't think I dreamed that up, but I think that was probably the thing. And Japan was calling like crazy to do commercials and stuff like that. And I mean, a lot of people wanted him to do stuff, and of course he wanted to do the movies and stuff like that. Whatever that. Yeah. Didn't take off. I mean, he did do some stuff, but I think that back then I thought that he was just going to come back to Van Halen, right? Right away.
Yeah. Well, I think by the time Eat 'Em and Smile was released, he was out of the band. Cause I heard, actually when he released Crazy from the Heat, that was the original plan, and then he kind of seen, hey, wait, I this is just a 4-song EP, but it's a major hit. People are digging this.
Yeah. That was, and so now he had some power. In his hip pocket. If he wanted to go solo, well, he could go solo, and he did, and they both did, and they had, not as good of, I think, in my opinion, not as good of a thing that they could have if they stayed together.
Oh, yeah.
But you also, get that appreciation when they do get back together. They just really knocked it out of the ballpark.
Oh, yeah.
And they brought their two mature styles back to their fundamental sound that they had in the 70s and turned it up. A different kind of truth.
Yeah. And it's interesting because going back to this album, prepping for tonight, Steve, I was reading some reviews and stuff from the time, and people were really loving this album. In fact, when 5150 was released the same year, and at the time, a lot of reviewers were saying, this new Van Halen album with Sammy Hagar is really slick, and but David Lee Roth, this is a great album, and it's kind of funny because of all Dave's solo albums, this is probably the most popular. It remains the most popular. And people expect him to have this huge solo career, and maybe except for this album, he didn't have the kind of solo career that a lot of people thought he would. But it's funny, those solo albums have aged really well, and I know you're always posting stuff from, the Dave solo albums up on your Facebook page, but it's amazing that if people would go back and listen to some of these albums, it's really good stuff,
Oh, you can't deny the musicianship. I think he just made sure to get the best. All of the musicians were just top notch.
And that's the thing too with this album is, like I said last time, we were talking about Crazy from the Heat, which preceded this, and that's just like, okay, let's get this out there. Let's kind of test the waters. People think of David Lee Roth as a solo artist, and it was a big hit. You're like, okay, we're gonna go really over the top on this debut album, and so. On Crazy from the Heat, it's just kind of Dave and some, like we were talking last time about, some studio musicians. He's like you're saying, he said, okay, now, if I'm going to follow that up, and I got to really go big. So, like, Steve Vai, he played with Frank Zappa, but he wasn't even as well known as he is today. But all those guys in that band, Billy Sheehan, Greg Bissonette, they went on to have huge careers. I mean, even Greg Bissonette, went on to play in, like, Ringo Starr's solo band. So I mean,
the All-Star Jazz.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, man. They're. I like listening to the musicianship. That's live. It really feels authentic. And it's like, oh yeah, Dave could have been, Frank Sinatra or whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
he is in that club. It's like that's it. It's like,
I mean, the only other like rock guy that I know is like covered a Frank Sinatra tune and did a great job, and really made it his own was Alice Cooper. He did a cover of "You and Me," which is an old Frank Sinatra standard too. But yeah, like Dave just totally owned it. And going down the list, we have track 3 is "I'm Easy," and that's kind of a little fun little tune. It's not.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Ladies' Night in Buffalo. Now, I remember the first time I heard that, I thought, wow, this sounds like I could see a girl like, dancing to this and taking her clothes off in a strip club, but just great little tune. And
super sexy vibe.
Yeah. Going Crazy. That's probably next to Yankee Rose. Of course, that's the other single off the album. That's probably my favorite tune. I don't know, just if it's the beat, the rhythm, but I love the drumming and the guitar and everything on there. Just kind of fits.
It's got such a what is it? It's like a Caribbean vibe to it, like you're on an island.
Yeah, another one on here that's kind of got a sexy kind of feel to it. Nice little groove. Bump and Grind. I don't know. I always thought they should have done a video for it. I don't know if MTV would have put it on back, but I always thought that's a fun little tune. I could just imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure when Extreme came out, but it's just similar to that vibe.
Yeah.
Like Three Sides to Every Story, they had similar. Odd timing guitars and drums. Just.
Yeah,
these guys are no slouches to cover. Yeah, you have to be a real sharp guy to cover this stuff.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is too. Okay, this album peaked at number 4 on the U.S. Billboard chart, and I think the only other country it charted in, amazingly, was Australia, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, Dave was like on a big tour. I mean, I remember some of the bands he had opening up at the time. I think Cinderella was just kind of on their first major tour. He took them out, and David Lee Roth back in 1986. I mean, he was a huge solo act. I mean, when he came out with this album, I mean, partly because he was well known already through fronting Van Halen, but he didn't start his solo career like a lot of guys where, okay, now I'm going to go back to opening for other artists. No, he was a big headliner at the time,
Yeah, he did pretty good for a while. I seen him once in Vegas by himself, and once over here in Palm Springs, and then in the solo days, and it was just fantastic. And both times were fantastic. And then again with Sammy when they toured together, and it was for me it was just Dave all the way. I mean, this guy was ripped. The greatest clothes. They had this blue outfit that just like whoa. Dang. Yeah, and he was twirling that baton.
Oh yeah.
100 miles an hour. He was at the top of his game back then, and it was really, fantastic to see him at the top of his game. After Eat 'Em and Smile, a couple years after that, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You go back to this album, Eat 'Em and Smile. I mean, it's amazing. Like I never forget, kind of like looking at that album cover, very first time I seen it. Okay, and we know those are like Dave's eyes, and you're like, okay, what is it? It's kind of a crazy looking painting or something of Dave. And then, what really amazed me, he's able to bring that album cover to life, like at the start of Yankee Rose video. I mean, he's in the the little bit in the beginning of a video where he's in the store. I get a glazed donut and anything to go.
Not in my store, you don't. I need a laugh.
Yeah. And
holy cow.
And then those two guys, like. The Fabulous Picasso Brothers. Those are characters he created, and that was actually his manager, right, from what I understand, dressed up as the Picasso Brothers, and it just is amazing because when you look at that album cover and then you see how he dresses at that part of the video, it's like, man, he's really bringing that to life.
Oh God, this is all great stuff. This is what makes me stick.
Yeah.
To him. He's got they got these, all these characters. I mean, it just grabbed me right away when these videos came out. It's like watching cartoons. It's like watching the Three Stooges. It's watching David Lee Roth, Dave TV. It's all the same thing. Yeah,
and everything he does is different. Like I've been seeing that he's been posting these paintings he's been doing online of like different things, or like he reads an article or whatever or like Eddie dies and he does a painting of how he's feeling, or he made a funny painting I remember shortly after Eddie died about Sammy Hagar, but like he's a very creative guy, not just with music. He paints, he does all kinds of things, and it's just he's a very expressive guy.
I really love that about him. I do some artistic things myself, but born on the same day.
Yeah.
It's the same day. I October 10th.
Well, wow.
I think I identify with him, just because of that, for one thing. But
yeah.
Being in Southern California is another thing. He's a very big hero to me. And so I'm looking for as much of this great stuff out of this guy. And I'm watching I'm watching the other guy, the Picasso brother, right now. Right? All these characters. The headhunter guy right here.
Oh yeah.
To go.
And then it moves into the band, and see, that's the thing. The band was so over the top.
Look at that. He's doing the splits again. Only this now he's the most mature Dave that he's ever been. So those splits are the best splits that he did. In probably the whole career. Yeah. Powerful looking.
Yeah, I got to tell people listening to this interview, Steve, that I know you're really studied up on David Lee Roth so much that you and I were having a discussion once, and one of my favorite songs that he ever did was that song on Van Halen's greatest hits, Me Wise Magic. And you listen to some of those nonsensical lyrics, but then you were telling me, hey, if you listen to some of that stuff, those are actually like yoga phrases. So I mean, you know your stuff, and I've seen where you post like David Lee Roth lyrics, and you're like, can you guess from which song this is? And I mean, you know your stuff.
You just you're cool. They give the big clue at the end. A Buddhist riff for your inner ear, and then you go into Eddie's killer solo. It's just very unique solo too. This is a strange song for them. Back in the day, and I love it. Yeah, it's fantastic. Again with the storytelling, and it didn't make sense to me until I was staring at myself in the mirror. And he says, "I know what you're thinking." I'm like, "Oh, holy cow! Yeah, that's what it is."
Wow. Yeah. And
he's talking to himself, like my soul and me.
Yeah.
Me and my shadow. It's pretty cool, man. I really appreciate his experiences, and my daughter was asking me about him doing a paramedic thing in New York.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I remember that.
He does this stuff so he can get the experience of people, mixing it up with people, real people, and then you write about it and you bring it into your song and your personality, and you're richer for the experience, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing because like he also I mean the thing about like you're like David Lee Roth becoming a paramedic, that's crazy, but it's a cool thing if you think about it. And I mean, could you imagine any of those people that he'd helped or saved their life? It's like David Lee Roth saved my life. Wow, what a story you have to tell. And then he's such an educated guy. People don't not realize. I mean, very much. I heard that he's very fluent in different languages. Like he's fluent in Japanese. He actually went to live in Japan, I think, for like 6 or 7 months, and he just won himself with the culture, and it's just amazing. Somebody could do that. And he doesn't really have to, but how cool that he's willing to. And I got to tell you, Steve, just talking to you, I mean, you even got his voice down. I'm not even talking about your singing voice, but I mean, just the way you talk. I mean, I'd almost think I was talking to Dave himself.
Yeah. Oh, well, I get that a couple times, but I feel like, maybe it's, my mom told me back in the day, I think I told you, hey, why are you trying to sing like Journey when you should sing like this guy?
Yeah.
You sing like this guy easy. And I'm like, oh.
And you even kind of,
you just talk.
Yeah.
I think it's a California thing.
Yeah.
We grow up with this vibe in Southern California. So you got that going. It's certainly something like that. And then you're probably, doing similar things too. But, again, I have to say it's mostly his personality that I identify with. If I could, do the jumps and the splits, that'd be fantastic. But I get along with just loving the guy, and certainly a mentor. Like I said, I mean, it's Groucho Marx and Bugs Bunny are heroes of mine. David Lee Roth is right in there, man. It's just like, if you want to learn how to entertain, everybody.
The one thing, in the time I've known you, the one thing I've noticed, like every time you post pictures of that up on your Facebook page, even with photos of you with the Viva Van Halen band, I know a lot of guys that pay tribute to Van Halen, but you're probably one that's really dedicated towards the David Lee Roth years, and and it's more than just Van Halen. Everything the guy has ever done. I mean, you were like one with him.
I feel him, man. I'm certainly wanting him to be celebrated. I hear a few folks not celebrating him, and it's just a shame because I know that people project their insecurities and they have an emptiness inside of them that they cannot praise. Man, well worth the praise. And for the adventures that he's already produced and has on vinyl or online or whatever, this guy's an artist, so you celebrate his art. You can't pick about how old he is or whatever. And people get old, and furthermore, he's in great shape for being as old as he is, and he's still this amazing, creative cartoon writing and so on. Movie star, very well spoken linguist. He knows about people. I'm sure some people on the stretcher were just in that ambulance may have been just a placebo effect by his presence. I'm better now that I see his smile.
Who knows? I
mean, people have that effect on other people. I know, that I've seen it. They bring horses into people's rooms and dogs into the people's rooms that help people heal. And I think that David Lee Roth said it really well. He said, "I give people smiles for a living." What a better job! What better job could you have? This is a giver. This is beyond rock star. This is beyond entertainer. It's like a ministry. It's like he's a giver. He's a talented, happy guy. I aspire to be like him.
And I imagine you could relate a lot to that because even just talking to you, like you're in such an upbeat mood every time I talk to you. It's like it's infectious. You walk into a room of people laughing and you can't help but join in. I had somebody once tell me because I'm kind of like that. I like to try to go through life for the most part, being happy or whatever. And I actually had somebody tell me, "Hey, you're always laughing. What's the problem?" I'm like, "No, you should try it." But that's the thing.
Oh man, I heard one of my buddies was telling me yesterday. There's some people. There's three kinds of people. The people that are passionate about music, musicians are obvious, and the fans are right there with the musicians because some fans are so rabid. They're maybe even more than the musicians themselves. But the passion for creative writing, like Eddie must have been, and Dave, what is still, the passion. And then there's people that are just fans, and they don't really, they don't really need to go to a concert or anything live. They don't need that fellowship. They can just hear it on the radio, and that's okay. And there's the people that absolutely don't need music. It's a distraction. Cut it out of your life. It's like, whoa, I didn't even know they existed. But then, I looked it up. I'm like, there's people that just like music. I'm just amazed. But I thought everybody liked it. Music soothes the savage beast.
It really does. Music's the one thing. If you allow it to, I really think is a universal language that can bring people together, and that's why I really think, especially since Eddie's death, that there's even more of an appreciation, not just for David Lee Roth, but that classic Van Halen stuff. That even something like, as we sit here and talk, can you believe 2021 marks the 40th anniversary of the album Fair Warning?
I saw that. That was great.
A lot of people may not have heard a lot of tunes off that album, but the fact, like I said, with Eddie no longer here, and we pretty much have a pretty good idea that there's never going to be another live Van Halen gig again. There's a newfound appreciation for this stuff, that maybe wasn't there even just a few years ago.
Yeah, right. Because there's not going to be any more, so you got to appreciate, dig in, because maybe you didn't really listen to it like you should have, or that you could have, and you really listen to what's in the background and what does it take. There's, the guys were talking about some of the albums having rhythm guitar on it, and most of them not, right?
Yeah.
And so you had mostly like the guitar on the left, I guess, and the bass and drums in the right, mostly. Something like that, like Jimi Hendrix or something used to do and stuff like that. The rhythm guitar is just over the top, just the bass even was just over the top. I think there was times where Eddie played the bass on recordings.
That's what he kind of said in the last few years, like that there were some things that he said that like he had to teach Michael Anthony how to play the bass, or that he played the actual bass. Like I think there's some tracks supposedly on 1984 where he played. I know on the solo album that Sammy put out after he first joined the band, Eddie played all the bass tracks on that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, it's not that far of a stretch. I mean, Yngwie plays bass on one of his albums. I am thinking that he does. I'm pretty sure I read that. But wow, I mean, it's just like amazing. I've seen amazing bass solos, but
getting back to Eat 'Em and Smile, let me ask you, like, I want to talk a little bit about the band too, because it was such a dynamic band. I mean, we talked about Steve, and like I was saying, I've never seen a guy that could really make the guitar talk. I mean, the first time probably was, him playing on Yankee Rose. I mean, all that stuff, David, I mean, I never heard it. And then even, I got to say, Steve, even when he was no longer in David Lee Roth's band, and, he joined Whitesnake, he put out these great, countless solo albums over the years, but, it's very hard to get into instrumental music, but probably maybe there's a couple of exceptions, maybe like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Marty Friedman, but like when Steve came out with that album, you remember around the time he joined Whitesnake, it was called Passion and Warfare. The single was, Little Steve Vai, and they did the great video. Again, the guitar was talking to me. I'm like, wow.
That's his soul. That's the way he sings.
Yeah.
This is what the difference is between a lot of guitar players. Like some of them, I don't feel what they're saying.
Yeah.
I don't feel them at all. To me.
Yeah.
And then there's the other guys like Eddie, like Steve Vai, like maybe there's a couple other guys that off the top of it. You know it when you know it, and it just holy cow, that guy's singing with his guitar. He's speaking with his guitar. He's he's setting the vibe with his guitar or voice and his character and his lyrics. Holy cow! This is big. This is why they're successful. They're bearing their souls. Yeah, I'm watching Billy Sheehan. Keep up with Steve Vai. I mean, that was like at first when we heard about it was like, I don't know, but then you see it happening, and it's like, those guys are, law of attraction and action. They all drawn together, man, like magnets. You had guys in the 80s, like, as far as bass players going, we could talk about guys like Rudy Sarzo, Michael Anthony, even Nicky Sixx. I mean, these real rock star guys that were great bass players, but until I seen Billy Sheehan, I mean, I never seen a guy really play the bass like. I mean, he almost played it like he was playing the guitar, and it's almost like him and Steve. We heard about Billy Sheehan, and the band and Talent.
Yeah.
And when you heard about it, and you heard that he was great and all this stuff, but it really didn't grab us until boom with David Lee Roth. And it's just like, oh, that's where he belongs. This is where he fits because he needed the rest of the combination. David Lee Roth as the head cheerleader, and Steve Vai as the quarterback, and so on. Greg Bissonette, they needed that.
In fact, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I've heard over years that, Talis opened on one of the Van Halen tours for Van Halen. That's when Dave first met Billy, and it was actually around that time that Eddie was trying to get Michael Anthony out of Van Halen. He wanted Billy Sheehan to come in, but
oh my God!
But it never quite worked out. But it's funny that when Dave would leave for his solo career, that's the guy that he would get.
Dang, it's like they all know each other, and they're like, I gotta ask about it, because all the musicians around town kind of know each other. So it's like, are we going to use this guy as a drummer? No, let's use another guy as a drummer. Well, let's use this guy as the guitar player. No, you use that guy for the guitar player.
I mean, Greg Bissonette, I mean, he was ultimate drummer. But the great thing about him is, of all the guys in the band, he was really probably the least known at the time. He was more like a studio musician. I know he'd done some work with Vinnie Vincent, but he was really well unknown up until joining Dave. And he's probably one guy in the band that stayed with Dave the longest, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, he's gone on to release solo albums, and he's like, I see him all the time on the internet, like advertising these drum clinics he does, and he does these tours with Ringo Starr. So it's just amazing the career all of these guys would go on to have.
Yeah, mean, it's just a creative point that they all met on and sparked for that moment. You know, it's a shame that it's not still going.
Yeah, and I'm surprised, you know, I'm really surprised that there's never been kind of, there's a lot of demand, a reunion. I know a few years ago that, like, they're supposed to be, for whatever reason, Dave couldn't show up, but the other three guys got up on stage, and, but I would hope that, you know, now that Eddie's passed, maybe there'd be a chance at least for them to do something. Who knows?
Well, it'd be nice. That would be lovely.
And I got to ask, have you heard that, you know, when Eddie first passed, Dave put out this little tune called, like, Over the Rainbow Bar and Grill? Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I urge you to go on YouTube. It's a fun little tune, and from what I understand, he's got a whole album of unreleased stuff that he recorded with John 5 that they're supposed to be putting out eventually, so that's something that we'll hopefully see in the next year or two.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still working on the David Lee Roth tribute solo stuff. We're going to actually merge something together, like the Van Halen and DLR stuff together.
Oh, that's cool. Now is that in addition to other band? You're still going to be doing that as well, right?
Yeah, that's in addition. This is still in the process, but we are getting underway. We making more progress.
Now, when you say we, do you already have like a band in place? Or are you still looking for guys, or?
We found a guitar player. We have a cover band, Revolver.
Oh wow!
And those two of the guys, the bass player and drummer, are going to help us in Viva Van Halen.
Wow!
So that's the guys that we have
already. Yeah.
They know the music, you know, and the drummer plays with Viva Van Halen already, and he plays in Dirty Deeds, a tribute to AC/DC.
Oh wow! Well, I'm glad you. Yeah, I'm glad you.
And they're very tight. If you have a chance to see them, look them up. Dirty Deeds.
In fact, I seen you guys have a gig coming up, and they're the opening band, I guess, or one of them. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's gonna be a Tom Petty band. I forget. But then we've got AC/DC, we got Viva Van Halen, and we have a Journey tribute band, and that's May 22nd here in Walnut.
Wow.
Walnut, California. Yeah. It's gonna be great show. We've been we did it last year, I think. Last year late, and it was really good. So it's gonna be twice as good this year.
Now, how did you guys put that together? Because I gotta say, when I seen that, I thought, wow, that is what a cool lineup. I mean, that's like something you go to back in the 70s, early 80s. It didn't really matter. You'd have all these different bands. Like I mean, even today, who would think that you have a Van Halen and an AC/DC and a Tom Petty tribute all in the same package? But I dig that, you know.
Yeah, we have our promoter Landon Gale George. He does all these promotions. He thinks of picks who's going to go. We're going to have a theme.
Yeah.
You know, of bands, because we did some other stuff at the Garden Amp, and we just get kinds of different gigs, and we all know each other. All the bands know each other, so there's a lot of love there, and we want to just spread the love of music. People are so appreciative right now.
Yeah.
They're coming up to us, and they're just like, dude, we love you. Oh my God, thank you for being and singing out here.
Yeah, and you know what makes a show like that so cool now is, I mean, people are finally getting back to being able to go to live concerts. That's a cool thing. First of all, but then, I mean, you got both tributes, like Tom Petty and a Van Halen tribute. I mean, both Eddie and Tom Petty, the real ones are no longer among us. So it's great that we have these great bands kind of covering that material, that era of a scene, and I just love it because see that's the thing, especially with all the Van Halen tributes right now. I mean, there's got to be even more of a demand for you guys because Eddie is no longer here. There's no more 0% chance of Van Halen ever getting back together. So the fact that you got all these great Van Halen tribute bands, a Tom Petty tribute band, I mean, it's great.
Yeah, each of the bands are putting in a lot of good efforts here. They got, we've seen them all, and we know all these cats.
That's what I love about the tribute scene, Steve. As you can imagine, from being a part of it, is I just, as a fan, love seeing all these bands. I went to see many of these bands, like when they used to have that tribute show on TV, Axis, the world's greatest tribute, and a lot of these bands, they do gigs together. They and a lot of times, when you're talking about original bands, they're competing, and stuff for gigs. But a lot of the tribute bands, they really are friends and they help each other out. I even know to the point where some guys will call and say, hey, our bass player's sick. You want to help us out? We have a gig Saturday night or something like that. That's super cool,
That's what I hope that we can get it to be most like, because instead of a fan club, we can have a family club.
There you go.
And that way, it's not about ego. It's about playing music and being a blessing. How about that? Let's do that.
Yeah, and I gotta tell people too, like the thing with you two, Steven, is like you don't just look and talk like David Lee Roth, but I mean, if anybody looks into your photos, you physically look the guy, and I don't know if that's just the way you look or it's part of the show, but I tell you got the part down.
I know that there's been times where I've taken pictures and I had curly hair, all over the place, but there's, I guess, practiced looks since I've been a kid.
Yeah.
And I know the poses.
Yeah.
So I maybe have done them so many times that now they feel natural.
Yeah, I mean, you really are natural, and the thing is too.
It's just, and plus, I guess I've been writing these lyrics down for all these years. I mean, over and over and over and over and over again. I've been singing them ever since I was a kid, and it means something to me, I guess.
Yeah, and that's part of it. People, they go and see you perform, and they can feel that your love for this is so true. It's more, some guys do it just for a paycheck, but anybody goes to see you, they like, no, this guy's into this, and I think even way beyond the look and everything and the moves, I think anybody sees you perform as David Lee Roth, it's like, man, you got the attitude, you got the personality.
Dude. Well, the only person I'm really concerned about watching me perform is David Lee Roth, because that would be the biggest honor that I could ever possibly have. Probably pass out if I knew it. But yeah, no, and like I think I've said before, and I tell people, it's definitely a dream. I bet manifests that I have to sing with David Lee Roth someday, maybe.
Well, a number of years ago, way after Steve and all these guys left Dave's band, he picked a couple guys to play with him, a couple guitar players, right out of like the Atomic Punks, which was the premiere.
Oh yeah.
I mean, could you imagine you playing this stuff and Dave actually comes down to see you play? Hey, how would you like to play these tunes in my band?
Well, I think I'm gonna attract, maybe a couple of those cats, because like if they want to have a reunion tour, if Dave doesn't want to do that, I would see it. I would do it in a minute, definitely want his blessing.
Oh yeah, definitely. But could you imagine? I mean, and even talk about Billy Sheehan. Once he's out of David Lee Roth's band, the first thing he does is Mr. Big. I mean, do you remember when you heard Mr. Big especially that first album, like "Addicted to the Rush"? I think that was the first single. I mean, like, wow, what that?
Yeah.
Check that out.
Paul Gilbert, man.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, I love that energy. Again, so Billy Sheehan get to show off his prowess in another band, and singing abilities.
And see, again, in Mr. Big, he surrounds himself around talented musicians. It's not all about him showing off. And it really was a band, so much to the point that when their drummer got sick and died a few years ago, they just said, okay, that's it. The band's not going to do it anymore. But they got a great catalog of music, and I think that first Mr. Big album is probably the best thing. Just just overall the top. It's almost full blown on metal. But the sad thing with Mr. Big is a lot of people, they heard that one hit, the big hit, "To Be With You." Oh, they're a one hit wonder. They're a ballad. They're a ballad band. No, that's not really the case. That's just one song. Yeah.
I'm listening to, I got the David Lee Roth, California Girls.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That's
video running in front of me, and, man, just all that
But
stuff.
See, that's kind of...
I mean, what guy doesn't want two girls on each arm? Beautiful girls.
Yeah. Well, hey, see, California Girls, and then you go, you move into Beautiful Girls. That's a cool segue, like if you're trying to put together a set list, for your...
I like that. I like the way you think, yeah. I'm always thinking that way, too. I like this giant catalog. So
oh yeah, and you know, and that's going to be the hard thing when you put together the new David Lee Roth tribute, is because you got to do the best of the Dave stuff and the best of the Van Halen years, and it's like, I mean, even, you know, like one of my favorite Van Halen albums of all time is Diver Down. A lot of people don't like it because they think it's a lot of cover stuff, but that I really think is a great David Lee Roth era album.
So much good stuff, man.
Yeah, so much good stuff.
Now, so we get the Revolver Band, and they're doing you know, other songs like Ice Cream Man that we're not doing, and Viva. They just busted it out, you know, and I was like, okay, let's play it, and that was great, you know, and you know, there's other Van Halen songs, you know, that no one ever plays, and you know, I would like to play Big Bad Bill, you know, one day.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
But I mean, that's just far out, you know. That you know.
Even little guitars, I always loved that song. I don't know why it wasn't a bigger hit, but that's one of those little tunes. And see, I think that could be kind of a big difference between the two bands. Is, you know, with Viva Van Halen, they maybe do kind of more of a hit stuff, and you could kind of you know, put a little more of a tunes that you don't do with that band in the set list for a new band. But see, that I really think that's a cool idea that you got, Steve, because I think hopefully it will work for you, because I don't know why nobody else has done a David Lee Roth solo tribute or anything like that. I mean, I think people are going to love it, you know, just for the fact that there's not a ton of them already out there.
Well, it's going to be a particular group because it's just, you know, the masses are fickle, and so, you know, it's hard to convince the guys that it's worth playing, you know, because you've heard You Really Got Me, and everybody plays that. You heard Ain't Talking About Love, and everybody plays that. But, you know, you got these other songs that are just, you know, the guitar solo is just phenomenal. The backup vocals are outrageous, you know, or the drumming is just over the top. It's like, but, you know, not everybody wants to hear that. That's you know, Jump, and those are the other songs, and those are more friendly to everybody. But if you want to really dig in a little bit on the harder side, you got, you know, Hang 'em High and other songs, you know, that are just, you know, Girl Gone Bad, and
Take Your Whiskey Home.
I mean, there's a lot of other stuff. Romeo Delight.
Fools.
You know, and this is musicians are going to appreciate this stuff, and there's still beautiful, sexy songs too. You know, I mean, it's just the other ones that really require a
musicianship. And then if you look at, you know, like something even
more
like
than that, practice. You got to practice. You got to get. You know, some guys just got it, and some guys have to work at it. I'm one of the guys that have to work at it. So I like to rehearse as much as possible. But
I mean, see, the cool thing about doing a David Lee Roth solo tribute is too. I mean, Dave doesn't tour a whole lot. Like, I can't remember the last time, you know, probably 2015 when they did the last tour, but he doesn't really do a solo tour anymore. And so, like, a lot of these tunes people have never heard live, you know what I mean? Like, you got stuff like From a Little Ain't Enough, Your Filthy Little Mouth, tunes that maybe a lot of fans like, but they, you know, nobody's really playing them, like you're saying.
Well, you know, there's, you know, people are doing a tribute to Frank Sinatra and everything like that. And David Lee Roth is, like I said, he's right up there with Frank Sinatra, Tom Jones, and Elvis Presley, in my opinion.
Yeah, in fact, yeah.
So I might as well do the tribute to the new Elvis in my book.
Oh yeah, I mean that's so true. I mean that's so true.
I might as well be the first guy. Hopefully, you know, the thing is that it also takes a lot of. He's very hard for me to learn to mimic, to just get nailed down. There's so much detail in his studio recordings, his works of art. You know, he might have done differently on stage for longevity and for the theatrics of all his acrobats that he was doing. You know, but on the record, this is what I'm going after. Is I want to be able to nail that record and sound like that on stage, you know, with longevity also.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Now, let me ask you, I mentioned the album Your Filthy Little Mouth, which is it's the fourth solo, I believe, and one of my all-time favorite tracks off of that. I was curious what you thought. I always love the track. It's the one where he does a duet with Travis Tritt, the country singer, Cheatin' Heart Cafe. Fun little tune. Do you think you could perform that, or?
Yeah, I'd love to. Our cover band, Revolver, and they have we have shows that we do for private parties, and they're asking us to do country western songs and stuff. And I'm like, oh, we know some ZZ Top, and they're like, that ain't country, you know. But no, it's your filthy little mouth, right?
Yeah, that's the fourth one. It's like I think track 6, but it's the one. It's a little duet, and he kind of speaks throughout the song, but kind of like a spoken singing tune. But they go back and forth. It's kind of a fun little tune. And
I love that stuff. You know, I want to include people, you know, coming up on stage, you know, and be part of the singing. You know, I want other singers to come up and do it back and forth like that. You know, you see Sebastian Bach and Rob Halford go back and forth on a song or something like that. And I think that would be fun. So there's a lot of people that love Van Halen or David Lee Roth. Maybe not so much both, but you know, whatever. You know, I would love to help bring as much Van Halen love to all the bands. You know, my friends that play in the Scorpion tribute. You know, have her come up on stage and sing with me a song, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you could have these
bands in. Ray's in a Dio tribute, and George is in a Dio tribute. I got these other guys that I'd like to, because they love Van Halen too, but they're in those other tributes. You know, we need another Van Halen tribute, like a hole in the head.
See, that's the thing. That's what make a band like what you're doing so cool, because there's not a band like this. I mean, you could have David Lee Roth stuff and Van Halen, you know, so the repertoire is a little more than just like a Van Halen.
Wider. I think you know, we'll be playing the NAMM show when it gets back to thriving.
Yeah.
And I think that we'll be in Vegas really soon, and
that'd be
and
cool.
after that it'll just be, you know, people will start seeing what we can do.
What is this? You know,
I mean, it's just, you know, the guys in both bands are just on fire. Frankie's on fire and Viva Van Halen.
Yeah.
The other guys are in Revolver on fire too. Everybody's got a fire lit, so it's like really fun to have a outlet, you know, as much as possible. And we're doing in Revolver. We do all kinds of weird songs, and we just did Ballroom Blitz up just off the cuff the other night.
Wow!
Sound check.
How cool is that?
It's really fun, you know. I guess, but you know, you hear the old Van Halen when they were playing covers.
Yeah.
And just the energy from just Eddie's guitar or Dave's wild sounding vocals covering the Carpenters or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, it's kind of funny, you know, talking about, you know, even by the time you get to the second album, which was Skyscraper, that's the last album that featured both Billy and Steve, and then they leave. It's kind of amazing. I mean, the next guitar player that he'd go on to play with would be Jason Becker, which was kind of just at the start of Jason's career, and it's very sad, as you know. I mean, just as that album was coming out, I mean, he was like 17 or 18 at the time, and that's when he got sick, man, and he got drastically sick. But that album, if you listen to it too, A Little Ain't Enough, that's one of my all-time favorite albums. I don't know, just from top to bottom, it's got great stuff, and I mean, got stuff like A Drop in the Bucket. I mean,
eventually I'll have that, you know, my tribute to Roth all together.
Yeah.
But you know, between then and now, we're just
getting started.
Enjoy it, or just get everybody, you know, involved and you know, getting better at it. You know, hopefully. And I think so. I think we're getting better at it.
Yeah, getting better. I just gotta say that's one of my all-time favorite Tesla songs. But that's just a great rocking tune.
Right. You're good. Right on.
Yeah, and actually, I think Tesla on that tour for the Eat 'em Smile tour opened up. That's when they were first coming out too. Amazing.
Right on.
And just kind of throw that in there. But before we wrap this up, Steve, I got to ask you, because I know since all this COVID stuff, you guys have done as places are starting to open up again. You've done a few shows already. You know, what's that been like for you? Because after a year of not playing, that's got to be a pretty great feeling to get back out there.
All along, we've been playing outdoor gigs and Viva Halen, and so we just, you know, everybody did their thing, whatever they had to do to get to where we could play, and so we played and we thrived. We continued to play.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing that.
And we found outdoor places to play. People like the golf, where my buddy Frank goes golfing.
Yeah.
I think it's the Red Hawk Golf Club in Temecula.
Yeah.
They met they made it happen outdoors, and they just built stage and everything set up outdoors, and everybody did their thing and showed up, and people were appreciative. And this whole time, people have been appreciative. And this is also a lot of bands, are in fear, and they stayed home, and they did their thing. That's good. I'm glad for that, but we are not that, and we are thriving. We got time to play. We got a lot of time to play and practice, and so I think we got better. Viva Halen is on a roll right now.
I love hearing that, and I just got to tell you, but think, as far as the people come to your show, think of people that haven't been to a concert in a year, and and bands are starting to get back. Think what a great feeling that's going to be for those people who haven't seen a show in a year.
Like at this other golf course in Walnut, we're going to be at. It's going to be outdoors, and it's Legends of Classic Rock. Petty or Not.
Yeah.
Petty or Not, Tom Petty tribute. Dirty Deeds, AC/DC, Viva Van Halen, and we have Journey tribute.
Oh, that's cool. And the Dirty Deeds, it's kind of interesting. I've seen them like just over the last year really starting to make some serious noise, and good for them,
Yeah, this is they Dirty Deeds have been our pals pretty much this whole time, and we played a lot of shows together, and we both have the same drummer, and but this is at the Royal Vista, the Bunker Bar, 20055 East Colima Road, Walnut, California. And this is going to be Saturday, May 22nd.
Yeah, hopefully people will hear this and they'll go, because we're actually going to get this up in the next couple of days. So I'm happy about that. And I just got to say, and before we wrap up today, Steve, you mentioned another guy, George, that plays in the Dio band, Dio Rising. I interviewed him. He's supposed to be another.
Oh, yeah, right on. Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, I love talking to him, and because he's got a mutual love and respect like I do for Ronnie James Dio. And I just got to say, a funny thing, George, he looks nothing like Ronnie James Dio, but it seems to work for him because his whole vibe, kind of like you, he's got that Dio vibe, and the look in his case doesn't seem to really matter, because he's got the voice, he's got the Ronnie attitude. I think he's just got the vibe.
Yeah, again, those guys have been right there with us, and they've been playing all through this as well. So they've been getting better and getting better and getting better. Even last time they played, I came walking up, and I had to walk up to George and say, "Man, dude, you're getting better, huh?" He said, I think I'm getting better. I go, "Cool. Well, how could you not? You put a little bit more oomph in it this time, or whatever he did. He just got it. And it's rocking the whole joint. And people are starting to notice, how real. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He's got a passion. This is what I think George and I share.
Yeah,
Some of the other singers out there, we share this. I really love Dio. He says.
Yeah.
I really love David Lee Roth. He sees that that's okay. That's good. I love what he's doing, and I appreciate his energy and the other guys too. It's all for our fun, and it's all for our joy.
Yeah. And bringing joy to the people, as they say. I got just a couple more things I want to ask you before we go, Steve. We were talking about Fair Warning, which is celebrating its 40th year. Now, that's one of those albums, and it's kind of interesting because I understand that's, believe it or not, Eddie's favorite album. And what he liked about it was the fact that the music was a little heavier than the other Van Halen albums.
Oh, yeah. We do a lot of that album, and I think Frank and Viva Van Halen wants to do each album so that we could just pull them out. So. Oh,
that's cool. And then I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, I guess the next time we do is probably just on the path we're on. The next logical one would be Skyscraper.
Right on.
Are you a big fan of that album?
Yeah, I think I got a couple songs on there that we're gonna add into the show.
Cool.
That I have in mind for that.
Okay, so next time, that'll be the album we'll discuss. If
So there's a couple songs on that album that outstanding. That really means something to me, I think.
All right, I love hearing about that. So next time, that's what we'll do. You take care in the meantime, Steve, and I'll let you know when the interview goes up in a few days. So thanks for doing this.
Right on, brother. Have a great evening.
Okay, you too. Thanks. Enjoy the weekend ahead. Bye-bye.